Hey guys, so we're finishing up our Genesis chapter 6 study. The Ark prepared. Next week we're not going to we're not going to roll into chapter 7. We're going to do a Q&A thing with my pastor, Nathan Warren, from Calvary Baptist Church, Pearland. So I just need to finish setting it up. He's already agreed to do it. I just need to give him a date and time. So with that, we're going to roll into to finish up Genesis chapter 6, 13 through 22, the ark prepared. And God said to Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make rooms in the ark, and cover it inside and out with pitch. And this is how you shall make it. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, its width 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. You shall make a window for the ark, and you shall finish it to a cubit from above, and set forth the door of the ark in its side. You shall make it with lower, second, and third decks. And behold, I myself am bringing flood waters on the earth, to destroy from under heaven all flesh in which is the breath of life. Everything that is on the earth shall die. But I will establish my covenant with you, and I shall go into the ark, you, your sons, your wife, and your sons' wives, with you, and of every living thing, all of flesh, you shall bring 2 of every sort in the ark, to keep them alive with you. They shall be male and female, of the birds after their kind, of animals after their kind, and of every creepy thing of the earth after its kind. 2 of every kind will come to you to keep them alive. And you shall take yourself of all the food that is eaten, and you shall gather it to yourself, and it shall be food for you and for them. Thus Noah did according to all that God accomplished, so he did. Within that last bit, there is a lot of controversy. The people who follow, and his name just left my brain. The secular viewpoint is that there was one big bang, and everything stems from one little microscopic organism. But my thing is that, like the Bible says, if we all derive from one little microscopic thing, then why does it take 2, a male and a female, to create life? So, and then if you Darwin, there it is. So if you follow the Darwin line, there's one big tree, and then everything branches off from that one thing. Whereas with creationism, and I've talked about this before in the beginning and when we started this, is that with creationism you have this like row, kind of like a bunch of little trees, and you only needed one specific species. Noah only had to bring in one specific species in order to preserve the life of all the animals. So, and we'll get more into that as we get into chapter 7. Anyways, going back to the ark itself, which is kind of neat because the ark, Noah didn't have, as far as we can tell, and from what the way I understand it, is that Noah wasn't a shipbuilder. He didn't know how to build boats, but God directed him and gave him the blueprints to build this boat. And I mean, I'm sure he got a lot of heckling and stuff like that for building a boat, and him not knowing how to build a boat. And then there's some speculations that he might have hired some people to help him build it, and stuff like that. But anyways, going to my notes, starting with verse 13. First time among a few in the Bible, God is showing one person his intentions for others. Genesis 18:17, Amos 3:7. Noah is now considered a prophet, a role he will fulfill faithfully. 2 Peter 2:5. God was about to bring judgment down on all life, human, animal, and plant, because of all the uh, wickedness of man. Leviticus 26:18 through 20. Isaiah 24:4 through 7, Jeremiah 12:11, and Hosea 4:1 through 3. And just like it said in the last part of this verse, is that he's going to he's basically forming a new contract. Just like he's formed a contract with Adam and Eve in the beginning, he's going to form a new covenant, a new contract with Noah, his sons, and his basically his family. So he's going to start life over with these animals that they're going to store into the ark, and then these 8 people. Going back, verse 14. Because of Noah's relationships with God, Genesis 6:9, Noah was a just man, perfect in his generations. Noah walked with God. God showed grace on Noah and his family. Noah and 2 of every animal, plus animals for food and sacrifice, will be saved on the ark. The ark is a watertight vessel used to preserve human life, a boat, basically. Gopher wood. Gopher wood could have been a tree or a particular wood that is no longer around. It may be extinct. But from what I'm understanding, a lot of the people who, smarter people than I am, I guess you could say, they all kind of think that it may be a cypress wood, maybe a pine, or a cedar, a really hard wood that you would use to build boats with. Anyways, that's from what I understand of it. Just some kind of hardwood, again, it could have been an extinct type of tree. Gopher wood, material used to build the ark, possibly a cypress or a pine. Some kind of hardwood, possibly a wood tree that's extinct. Noah was to make the ark rectangular, a barge-like, something that you would see today, even today, and that's something I really find fascinating, is that the barges today is basically the same specs as what the ark was back in Noah's time. 6 times longer than wide, 10 times longer than high. These ratios have been used to create seaworthy vessels ever since. Cubits is ancient form of measurement, roughly 18 inches, which was kind of neat because I measured my arm from here to here, which would be your cubit. So my arm from here to here is maybe 15. But if you measure I measured my husband's, and I should have done more people so I could see if it's like a consistent thing. But I measured my husband's from fingertip to elbow point, and it was pretty close to being 18 inches. So roughly the length of here would have been 18 and a half inches, which is where you get your cubits. The total length of the ark was 450 feet, the largest ship known to be constructed in ancient times. The length of it was 300 cubits, which would be 450 feet. Width is 50 cubits, which is roughly 75 feet. The height of it was 30 cubits, which would roughly be 45 feet. Decks, you have 3 decks, so you have one for living, one for food and storage, and then one to house all the animals. Window also mean roof or hatch, a 18-inch gap, 4 sides of the boat from the roof, and then the pitch is a tar-like substance used for waterproofing back in ancient times. Verse 17, after God commanded Noah to build the ark, he told Noah what his plans were. God was bringing floodwaters, one massive global flood. Everything is on the earth shall die. And that's another thing that has a big controversy, is that some think it was like a flood that was like in that particular part of the earth, But it's amazing. I was watching a couple of documentaries, and it's amazing that you can see where there was once a global flood, because they were showing how the mountain ranges of the Grand Canyon, how it just shows evidence of one global flooding versus one. How do you want to put it? One little section of the earth being flooded. And the simple fact that we're, even in secular geology, we're taught that the earth was one big landmass surrounded by a bunch of water, and then after a certain event, and they I don't remember if they in school if they ever said if they said, I think they said over time the landmass is kind of separated from each other, and that's how we got the geography we do today from the United States, Asia, Europe, and whatnot. But in creationism, the global flood is what helped separate all the landmass, because once the waters died down, you have your dry land, and that's how everything was separated and sorted. After God commanded Noah to build the ark, Noah has his plans where God was bringing the floodwaters. The global flood is accepted by Christians even today. It is believed by most that the geography of the pre-flood was a lot different post-flood. Pre-flood land was one continuous mass. Post-flood we have today with all the different countries and continents separated by water in 4 oceans. Your continents, if y'all remember, if you're older like me and you remember your continents, it's Africa, Antarctica, Asia, Australia, Europe, North America, and South America, which I would think it would be Americas, but the studies I had had North and South America, because I don't know. Anyways, and then your oceans is the Arctic, Northern, Indian, Atlantic, and then Pacific. Some believe there was no difference in the land masses pre or post flood. I kind of disagree with that, just because of the evidence that I've seen in some of the documentaries I've watched, and then also in like the Grand Canyon, and I think somewhere's in Montana, where they do a lot of fossil digging. They're finding ocean creatures, fossils of ocean creatures in parts of in the middle of, I mean, Montana doesn't have an ocean around it, and they're finding ocean creatures when they dig for doing their archaeological thing, and they're digging for fossils. So it's like, okay, if there wasn't one big global flood, then why is there fossilized nautical creatures in Montana? You know, or in the deserts of Egypt. It makes more sense for a global flood versus just one little spot being flooded. Verse 18, covenant is a pact contract between two parties. God has made a binding contract between himself and Noah. He is starting everything new and refreshed with Noah and his family. God's preservation of Noah meant that the people that would come from Noah's sons are going to need food and whatnot. So he instructed Noah to bring with him on the ark 2 of every kind of animal, male and female, to preserve them. So he's preserving the species of the animals. And then he's bringing in another 7 that were to be food for him, his family, and the animals. And then plus, of course, grains and stuff. Noah would not have to go and hunt these animals or critters down. He wouldn't have to go and trap them. He wouldn't have to go and do anything like that, because God had instructed the animals to come to him. They would come to him. There are 3 other occasions in the Bible that God directed animals to come to people. Exodus 16:13, when the quail to feed the Israelites after they left Egypt. Numbers 11:31, quail to feed the Israelites while they were still traveling in the wilderness after the Exodus. And 1 Kings 17, 2 through 6, ravens defeat Elijah when God sent him to hide by the brook of Cherith. Noah's family stored grain and such for themselves and the animals. The amazing thing is that even though Noah didn't know how to build a boat didn't he, God gave him the instructions and Noah said, okay, let's do this. Noah didn't question it. He just did what God commanded, the same as Moses and Aaron. Aaron's sons, Joshua, Gideon, Samuel, David, Elijah, unknown. It is unknown on how long it took for him to build the ark. Some say it was around 100 years. But again, it's not mentioned in the Bible, so therefore we're not totally sure. So while I was doing this, I printed off this little blueprint thing I found on the internet. And with it, I wrote down a few interesting things. Sorry, my camera lady needed to get a good shot of that. With it, I wrote down a few interesting things. So the ark was, if you set it up like this on its side, on the front or back of it, it was taller than 3-story building. Deck area size of 36 lawn tennis courts, 20 basketball courts, and I think as long as a football field or a football field and a half. Standing on its end was as tall as the Great Pyramid of Giza. There it was. I said, so sitting up like it should, it's taller than 3-story building. But if you set it up like this, it's taller than the Pyramid of Giza. Big enough to contain 522 standard U.S. rail stock cars. Length 10 times its height and 6 times its width. Has the same proportions as a modern-day cargo ship. It was more than adequate to handle 100-foot waves. So, basically, when God gave Noah the blueprints to build this ark for the global flood, he wasn't making sure. Of course, God does everything perfectly, but he was making sure that Noah understood that this was going to house him and his family, and it was going to take care of him. And so we'll get more into that as we get into chapter 7. But like I said, we're going to wait until chapter 7. We're going to start in 2 weeks, because next week I want to do this Q&A with my pastor. I think it's going to be fascinating, and it is going to be on the fly, so he doesn't know what's coming. So with that being said, we're going to end this video this time. Don't forget to pick up your copy of Someone to Believe In. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iTunes. Hardback, paperback, and ebook. And y'all have a very blessed week.